At just 16 years old, her own father stopped the wagon, pointed to the empty prairie, and coldly said, "You're on your own." He rode away without looking back, leaving his daughter alone, with nothing but a faded blanket and fading hope. But what happened after one kind rancher found her would become a story the entire frontier would never forget. Stay until the very end, because the greatest lesson of this story isn't about being abandoned. It's about discovering your true family. Before we begin, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue sharing powerful stories of kindness, hope, and second chances. The cold wind swept across the endless Montana prairie as 16-year-old Clara sat beside the dusty wagon trail, clutching the faded wool blanket that had belonged to her late mother. Only moments earlier, the wagon carrying her father had disappeared beyond the rolling hills without a single glance backward. The words still echoed painfully in her mind. "You're old enough to survive on your own." Those had been the last words her father spoke before tossing her small bundle onto the dirt road. Years of hardship had turned him bitter after losing his wife, failed harvests, and endless debt. But Clara had never imagined he would abandon his own daughter in the middle of nowhere. She wiped away her tears, refusing to let anger replace the kindness her mother had taught her. No matter how cruel the world becomes, her mother had once whispered, "Never let it steal your heart." Holding on to those words, Clara stood slowly, wrapped the blanket around her shoulders, and began walking along the lonely trail beneath heavy storm clouds. Every step tested her strength, hunger gnawed at her stomach, and the chilly mountain wind cut through her worn clothes. She drank from a winding creek, gathered berries she recognized, and spent the night beneath a crooked pine tree, listening to wolves howl in the distance. Fear whispered that she might never see another friendly face again. But each sunrise reminded her that giving up would betray the mother who had believed in her. 2 days later, weak from exhaustion, Clara reached a narrow wooden bridge, crossing a rushing river. As she struggled to carry herself across, her legs finally gave out. She collapsed beside the road, too tired to continue. Hours later, the sound of horse hooves echoed through the valley. Samuel Carter, a respected rancher known throughout the region for his honesty rather than wealth, was returning from town with supplies. Spotting the motionless girl beside the bridge, he immediately stopped his horse and hurried over. Instead of asking suspicious questions, he gently placed his coat over her shoulders and offered her fresh water. When Clara finally regained enough strength to speak, she quietly admitted she had nowhere to go. Samuel noticed she never begged for help or asked for money. Instead, she whispered something that surprised him. "If you know anyone who needs work, I'll earn my meals." Those simple words revealed more about her character than anything else could have. Samuel smiled gently. "I do know someone who needs honest help," he replied. "But first, you need a hot meal and a safe place to sleep." Clara hesitated after being abandoned by her own father. Trusting another stranger felt impossible. Yet something about the rancher's calm voice reminded her of the kindness she thought the world had forgotten. She climbed slowly into the wagon, unaware that the road ahead would not simply lead to a ranch. It would lead to the life she had always deserved. Samuel's ranch rested in a peaceful valley surrounded by tall pine trees and snow-capped mountains. It was not the largest ranch in the territory, but everything there reflected years of honest labor. The fences stood straight, the horses were well cared for, and every hand who worked there was treated with fairness. Clara stepped down from the wagon, feeling both grateful and uncertain. Samuel showed her a small room beside the kitchen and simply said, "Rest tonight. Tomorrow, if you still wish to work, we'll begin." There were no questions about her past, and no demands for explanations. That quiet respect meant more to Clara than any speech ever could. Before sunrise the following morning, Clara was already outside. She carried water from the well, swept the porch, fed the chickens, and helped prepare breakfast before anyone else had even finished waking. She asked for no praise. She simply worked as though every task was a chance to prove that she deserved the kindness she had received. The ranch hands soon noticed her determination. At first, some doubted whether a 16-year-old girl could keep up with frontier life, but day after day, Clara surprised them. She mended torn work shirts with neat stitches, cared for injured horses with remarkable patience, planted vegetables beside the garden fence, and learned to bake fresh bread from the elderly cook. She never complained about sore hands or long hours. Instead, she thanked everyone who taught her something new. One afternoon, a frightened colt escaped through a broken gate and galloped toward a rocky ravine. Several ranch hands chased after it, but could not calm the terrified animal. Clara quietly walked into its path, speaking in a soft voice, just as her late mother had once taught her. The trembling colt slowly stopped, lowered its head, and allowed her to wrap a rope gently around its neck. The ranch fell silent. Even Samuel smiled proudly. "You didn't use force," he said. Clara shook her head. "My mother always said frightened hearts need patience before they need strength." Those words stayed with Samuel long after the sun had set. As autumn passed, Clara became an important part of everyday life at the ranch. She wasn't treated like a servant or a burden, she was trusted. Samuel handed her responsibility for the ranch accounts whenever he traveled to town, knowing every figure would be honest. When supplies arrived, she checked every crate carefully. If a neighbor needed help, repairing a fence or gathering a lost herd, Clara volunteered without hesitation. Then one evening, an unexpected visitor rode through the ranch gate. It was her father. His wagon was damaged, his horses were exhausted, and another failed season had left him with almost nothing. He recognized Clara immediately. She stood beside the barn wearing clean work clothes, her face healthier than he had seen in years. For a long moment neither of them spoke. The ranch hands waited to see what would happen. No one would have blamed Clara for turning away. Instead, she quietly brought a bucket of water for the tired horses and asked the cook to prepare supper. Samuel watched everything in silence. He realized the greatest proof of Clara's strength wasn't how hard she worked. It was that hardship had never stolen her kindness. But before the night was over, her father would reveal the real reason he had abandoned her, and the truth would change both their lives forever. That evening, after supper, Clara's father finally spoke. "I didn't leave you because I hated you," he admitted quietly. "I believed I had nothing left to give. I thought you'd have a better chance without me." Clara looked into his tired eyes and answered with calm dignity, "You didn't give me a chance, you gave up on me." Her words carried no anger, only truth. The old man lowered his head in shame. Samuel stepped forward not to judge him, but to remind him that every person must live with the choices they make. "You cannot change yesterday," Samuel said gently, "but you can choose who you'll become tomorrow." The next morning, Clara's father thanked Samuel for saving the daughter he had failed to protect. He rode away alone, promising to rebuild his own life honestly. Months passed. Clara continued helping the ranch flourish. She expanded the vegetable gardens, cared for orphan calves, and even taught neighboring children to read during quiet evenings. Families across the valley admired her kindness, hard work, and humble spirit. One autumn sunset, Samuel handed Clara a small wooden box. Inside were the official papers naming her as his legal daughter and future heir to the ranch. "You came here with nothing but a blanket," he said with a smile. "Today you have a home, a family, and a future that no one can ever take away." Tears filled Claire's eyes. For the first time since her mother's passing, she truly felt safe. The valley remembered her story for generations, not as the girl her father abandoned, but as the young woman whose courage, forgiveness, and honest work transformed one act of kindness into a lifetime of hope. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who believes that kindness, dignity, and love can give a person a brand new beginning.